Hi everyone, and welcome back to the third and final session on the science of flight with me, Chris, from Wild Elements. On today's session we are going to look at aerodynamics. We will start by looking at what aerodynamics is and the physical laws that govern fluid dynamics. We will then look into the four forces of flight into slightly bit more depth compared to what we did in the first session, as fluid dynamics governs two of the four forces of flight. We will also be looking at how a wind tunnel works before moving on to our final activity, which is making paper aeroplanes and the competition. So what is aerodynamics? Aerodynamics is the scientific name for how the motion of air travels around an object. To understand how air moves around an object, we need to look at a physical law known as Bernoulli's principle. The reason for this is that when air moves, it acts very similar to water. Bernoulli discovered that when fluid is moving, it has less pressure, but when it is stagnant in one position, it produces more pressure on the environment around it. The reason this is important is because it acts on two of the four forces of flight, which is lift and drag. To understand how lift works, Bernoulli's principle is in play. The air that travels across the top of a wing, that is called an airfoil, is travelling much faster than the air that is travelling beneath the wing. Therefore, the air above the wing has less pressure than the air below. That is what produces the lift. Drag, which is the second force of flight, which is also linked to the Bernoulli's principle, in your workbook is broken down into three stages. The first stage is friction, which we spoke about in the previous session, which you can experience by just rubbing your hands together, making your hands warm up. That is the friction between the two surfaces of your palms. The second is called pressure drop. This is linked to the first experiment that we did, where we held a piece of paper up in our hand and waved it through the air. That was also pressure drag. However, what we didn't cover in the earlier sessions is what is called as vortex drag. What happens is the wind from under the wing reaches the tip of the wing and tries to push over into the area above that has less pressure. And what happens is the same as we see on the land. When you have high pressure from above and low pressure from below, we get what are known as tornadoes. And this is exactly the same thing that happens at the tips of the wing. And it is the vortex drag that has been highlighted through the use of wind tunnels. Wind tunnels have been used since the time of the Wright brothers. They used the wind tunnel to help develop the Flyer 1 and Flyer 3. But the overall shape of a wind tunnel has remained more or less the same. It uses Bernoulli's principle on fluid dynamics, how it pulls the air in from one side, squashes it down to a narrow opening and then releases it back out the other side. In your workbook there is a diagram explaining just how this works. And now let's move on to our activity of making paper aeroplanes. For our paper aeroplane activity, first you need to design your own aeroplane. Let's take a look at a design that my colleague has made and a design that my girlfriend made last night. This one is one that my colleague Neil made. Do you think it's a good one? Do you think it will fly far? What about its wing shape and aerodynamics? Or this one that my girlfriend made last night? It's very basic, but very simple to make. Now, let's have a go at making the designed aeroplanes that you have the templates for in your work. These are the two designs that we are going to make today using your templates. This first one is called the Hunter. It has a large wingspan and has winglets on the side of the wing. And the second is called the Dart, which has a front extra wing space alongside a long wing. Oh, just a reminder, remember to put your name on the inside of your aeroplane so it doesn't get lost during the competition. First plane we're going to make is the Hunter. You may need to use a ruler, but it is not essential. Okay, to start, we want to measure out roughly about an inch from the top, and then fold that down, making a long rectangle across the top of the page. The second fold is to fold that then in half once again, and once more fold that again in half, leaving a very thin strip of folded paper running along the top of the page. Next, we need to flip the piece of paper over and then put it into two equal halves like so. Remember to press hard along the line to make sure that the fold stays. Next, we open the piece of paper back up, and from the top right corner here, we are going to bring it down to the center. Pressing hard, making sure the folds stay, and repeat for this other side. And you should have something that looks like that. Next, we need to fold this in half this way. Make sure all your folds are neat. Then we are going to make our wings. To make our wings, we are going to fold most of the way down the body so it looks kind of like that. And to finish off the wing, we are going to put a winglet on it, like so, and we'll repeat the process for the opposite side. Now you can see that the shape of this aeroplane is there, and you can see that it has a large wing surface which should enable it to fly quite a decent distance. And there we have the Hunter. The next paper aeroplane we are going to make is called the Dart. This is slightly harder to make than the Hunter. To start with, we need to take this corner and bring it down to here. Next, open the sheet of paper back up and repeat the process with the opposite corner. Open the piece of paper back up, and we should have what looks like a cross in the upper half of the sheet of paper. Turn the piece of paper over, and using your ruler or your finger, go through the center of the cross and fold the upper half of the paper back on itself, like so. And now we should have what looks like a star shape in the center of your piece of paper. Now remember to turn the piece of paper back over so the fold that you have just made is now pointing towards you. For the next stage, we need to do what is called an accordion, which is essentially folding it back in on itself. Place your finger in the center of the star, and with the opposite finger push the fold into the center of the piece of paper. Repeat on the other side, and then with your thumbs push the outer edges out to make what looks like a triangle above a rectangle, or as some people say, like a house. Next, we need to fold this corner up to the top point. Like that. Now you have 2 triangles on this side, and we repeat on this side, taking the point back up to the center at the top, and now it looks like we have a diamond shape within our triangle. Okay, our next step is to turn the piece of paper slightly and pull the top triangle up and fold this edge onto this line. You can now see that our plane is starting to get its wing shape. And repeat for this opposite side. Remember always to press out your folds, make sure they hold their shape. Now our design is starting to look like a dart, but there's still a couple more things we need to do just to finish it off. First, we need to, from the center line here, make sure these points come together and meet. And you should have something that looks like that shape. To finish off our wings, we are going to fold this top edge down to the bottom side, like so. That's one wing, and then we are going to pull over the front wing over the main wing and repeat this for the opposite side. And once again, same thing, squash it down, and there we have our dart. Have fun with your paper aeroplanes and the competition, and please ask a teacher or parent to send in any images or designs that you have made through the Science of Flight program. Please send them to our Facebook page or our Twitter account. Thank you very much.